The Trump administration has a brand new target as it slashes through the federal workforce. Officials are now advising federal agencies to fire probationary employees who have been on their jobs for less than 2 years. That's before civil service protections kick in. The Washington Post reports that the mass layoffs were delivered through pre-recorded videos and on group calls. Some employees were ordered to leave the building within 30 minutes. Others were told they would be formally fired by email, but the email never arrived. Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake. Jonathan Capehart is a member of the Washington Post editorial board and the host of MSNBC's Weekends with Jonathan Capehart. Garrett, do we have any idea how many people this could impact?
Only broadly, Chris. I mean, we know there will be many thousands of people ultimately laid off, but how many is a bit of an open question, and some of this is by design. The process is totally opaque, and it varies by agency. You could be a probationary employee at an agency like the CIA or somewhere in the intel community, or perhaps in a field related to immigration enforcement, where you might even get a notice that your position is being eliminated, but the administration actually wants to try to keep many of those people on. They don't want to cut people from national security roles, from immigration enforcement roles, and from other positions that are exempted throughout the federal government. All of this leaves us and these thousands of federal workers across the government essentially checking their email inbox periodically to try to figure out if they are caught up in this. And some of this is just sort of based on the ad hoc nature of the process here. But some of it is also by design. The White House has been pretty clear. They want to act fast. They want to break things. And Elon Musk even said the other day that they will at times go too far and have to claw some of these things back. So I think we're all going to be chasing this down in real time as these notices in different formats go out from agency to agency.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, when you look at these firing and how they were conducted, I wonder if you're hearing anything about workers in D.C. questioning whether even to keep working for the federal government.
Well, I know in the Washington Post story in the paper today, the story on these firings or the laying off of the probationary workers, it ends with one woman who got one of these emails saying that, you know, she is done. And she asked her supervisor, does that mean that I should keep working on the project she was working on? Should she finish? And her supervisor said, no, you don't have to. I think, Chris, what we're seeing here is the federal workforce being part of a game of sorts. And by game, I mean what President Trump is doing via Elon Musk is stretching the limits of executive power. He is doing lots of things that none of his predecessors has ever done. Things that are being tied up in the courts because there's a lot of questions about whether any of this is legal. And yet he's trying it. And we will see through these court cases whether these federal workers who are caught up in the middle of this, whether the president of the United States will be found having the ability to carry out these firings, these layoffs, these buyouts of workers.
You know, one of the things that's talked about a lot in politics, certainly, but also in business, any place where people work, is the importance of building a bench. I mean, if you're looking at a cost-benefit analysis, you're obviously immediately cutting costs, or at least cutting costs after you pay them, some of them, for 7 months or whatever it is, versus, though, long-term expertise building. Right, Jonathan?
Yes, no, that's exactly it. I mean, there's so many things happening here. They're trying to reduce, quote unquote, waste, fraud, and abuse, excess fat, all of the pejorative ways of thinking about federal workers. And what we, the American people, are going to find out in short order, if we're not finding out already, is that these federal workers go to work every day and they bring their experience and their expertise, a lot of them built up over decades. You cannot replace that. And in the end, in order to backfill positions that are now empty, you're going to end up spending money. And we haven't even had that conversation yet about when something happens and an agency finds that it doesn't have a person, no longer has the person who knows how to do X, Y, or Z. You're going to have to find that person. And the difficulty will then be who would want to work for the federal government after this experience.
In the meantime, attorneys general in 14 states have filed a lawsuit arguing that the Trump administration violated the appointments clause of the Constitution by granting sweeping powers to Elon Musk, arguing that he has, quote, transformed a minor position that was formerly responsible for managing government websites into a designated agent of chaos without limitation and in violation of the separation of powers. I mean, look, a lot of pushback from Musk's efforts have come from outside of Washington. There are at least 68 unions, 68 lawsuits, a bunch of them from unions and state AGs. But I'm curious whether you're hearing quietly behind the scenes or have an expectation of people in power in D.C., of course, Congress being the most obvious, starting to feel this is going too far, especially if they start hearing from their constituents.
Well, that's the key thing, starting to hear from their constituents. And that's where you're going to see, particularly Republicans in both the House and the Senate, trying to decide whether they have loyalty to the president and, doing what he wants for his agenda, or loyalty to their constituents and doing things that, help the people back at home. There have already been stories about how there are Republicans on Capitol Hill who are quietly trying to minimize the cuts, minimize the program disruptions that are now hurting already. They're already hearing from constituents, hurting their constituents. And that's what's, Chris, going to make, we're talking about federal workers right now, but we have a budget deadline that is coming up. And that is when we are going to see whether Republicans are able to get the president's agenda through, while at the same time either ignoring or not giving as much credence to the concerns of constituents back home.
Jonathan Capehart, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you.